you, it's classified. Sorry to open the episode that way, but those are the words spoken by elected and unelected public sector officials to shelter themselves from public scrutiny and oversight. It's been used for decades. Western governments have expanded exponentially in the post-war era, and increasingly, they hoard as many issues as they can under the designation of it's a matter of national security, because that designation gives them free rein to do as they please. It's the key to unlimited power. Just recently, former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair opined on the importance of gathering citizens' sensitive health and medical data in order to keep up with the global biotech race, saying, quote, a national purpose to support new discoveries will be central to economic growth. So Mr. Blair is making the case that biotech discoveries are essential for growth. It's a suggestion at the moment. I could see very easily this becoming more of a warning and a message to cause fear in UK citizens that if we don't do this, then something bad will happen. That's the next step, but we'll get to that in a moment. And it's important to know that when we talk about biotech discoveries, we're talking about AI. AI is being used all over the map in every single vertical, especially in discoveries in medical and pharma research. So let's talk about AI for just a moment. And this story relates to AI in a couple of ways. Many of you may have seen a few months ago that Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Sam Altman, they all met in DC for this AI sit down with national leaders to talk about a framework that we can develop safe AI and reduce the potential harmful effects of AI. We saw after that meeting not really much happen. A few of the guests and the attendees commented that it was nice and it was generally friendly, but there's been no framework proposed. Nothing has been published or written around how AI is going to be developed safely. Why is that? There is zero incentive at the government level or in the private sector for anyone to slow down AI development. Here's why. We'll start in the private sector. Let's take Google, for example. Google has Google Bard. It just rebranded it to Gemini. That's their AI. That's their LLM. These new LLMs, whether it's Anthropic or Bard or Bing Chat, they all are basically a new kind of search. That's a problem for Google because 85% of Google's money comes from search, from ad revenue generated by its search product, the Google browser. So if Google loses this AI race, it doesn't just lose potential upside and, piss off investors. It might cease to exist as a company. 85% of its money comes from ad revenue generated from search. If everyone's using LLMs, they won't use Google. This is an existential battle for Google and for Bard or Gemini or whatever they're calling it now. And it's the same for across the board. When you look at, Microsoft has put a ton of money into ChatGPT. They own ChatGPT. They know that it is now the future and that all future products are contingent on them winning this. So there is actually no incentive for any of them to slow down. Let's talk about the public sector. Every single nation realizes the ability for AI to develop biotech, weapons, bioweapons, hacks, to infiltrate cybersecurity, to infiltrate infrastructures, physical infrastructures, grid infrastructures, IT infrastructures, private sector, public sector. So we cannot afford, no nation out of a matter of national security can afford to get too far behind in the AI race because they might get attacked with some advanced AI that they don't recognize or know how to stop. So again, there's no incentive in the public sector for any government to actually stop this. And this is why not only are you not going to see any agreement, any cross-jurisdictional agreement between countries to actually slow down AI, even though we've had all the best leaders in the world, including Geoffrey Hinton, the former VP of AI who launched the department at Google, stepped down from his role last summer to make a statement that this is not going well, guys. Elon Musk has said several times that this is more dangerous than nuclear war. Even though we have all these warnings from some of the brightest minds in AI, nobody's actually going to stop. To the contrary, what you're going to start seeing a lot more of are comments like Mr. Blair's. We're going to start seeing how it's a matter of national importance to keep sharing our data, you and me to keep sharing our data. And here's why. Let's talk a little bit about how AI is trained. So AI basically takes data, you create an algorithm that looks for patterns in a data set. And you train that algorithm to get better and better until it can really do what you, so say you give it 1,000 pictures and you say identify all the cats and the dogs. After a while, it can successfully identify all the cats and the dogs, and now you have a model. And you can take that model, introduce it to new data sets, and it can now do this automatically all the time. So that's what's happening with AI. The key ingredient here is data, our data. They need massive amounts of data. There are certain types of AI models that don't require as much data, but those are not the ones that are being used right now by all the big tech players. Anthropic and Bing and Google Bard, Gemini, and ChatGPT, they're all using LLMs, large language models, which require a ton of data. So they're getting it wherever they can. And so knowing what I just said in the first part of this talk about how nobody's incentivized to slow down, they have to keep on this current trajectory, they have to keep developing. It's pretty common sense that they're also going to demand and need more data in order to do that, in order to stay ahead. What you're going to see over the next couple of years is actually not a framework for how to make AI safer. You're probably going to see a lot more comments like this. Like I said, you're going to start to see public officials conditioning us to getting used to this idea that it's a matter of national security that we give up our data, when in fact, the opposite is almost true. We need more control over our data at the edge, at the apps and at the devices that we interact with these apps that are gathering our data at. That's where we need more control. We can't be waiting for top-down policy or, geopolitical coordination that probably isn't going to come. We need tech and we need grassroots movements to build a layer of privacy at the edge level, at the layer that you and I actually use these apps, or where we're actually submitting our data through the devices that we use. So keep a lookout for the next couple of years. I think that we're living in a very narrow window of time where we have to change this conversation, because the trajectory of it is that you and me have no right over our data. It's now going to be a matter of national security. And in fact, we need to be making it more our own. We need to own it, we need to have more control over it, and we need the ability to monetize it. No one's talking about that. Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are both fighting over which of their platforms owns the data for users that use both. And neither of them are talking about the fact that we're the ones generating it. We're the ones posting, we're the ones sharing geolocational data and our contact data, our financial information. Why aren't we getting a piece of that? The ability to monetize our data, to control it, to rescind it from servers where it currently exists if we want. These are all things we need to be talking about, not how giving up our data is a matter of national security. So keep that in mind. Tune in next week for more stories like this. We'll talk soon. Bye, guys.